Hey my sugar bears, welcome back to my channel, Bougie AF. It's your host, J. Nicole. It's where I say stay bougie on them. It's me feeding you feminism for the soul. It's my soul food offering. It's where I apply pressure to issues by being critical and logical. Now don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's get to the commentary where I can guarantee you I will be doing too much because that's just me. And like Sheree said, who's gonna check me, boo?
Hey, it's your girl, J. Nicole, and you are tuned in to the Bougie AF channel where I say stay bougie on them, and I'm serving you feminism for the soul. Don't forget to check me out on them people's Instagram at OG_Bougie AF. You can also check me out on Twitter at I'm_Bougie_AF. You can also check me out on them people's TikTok at Bougie AF 609. So let's get into it. So this one is actually going to be like a real quick video for me. Y'all see I got the IG scroll, but we're actually going to head over to Twitter because there's a story that I have been following on Twitter. And this story, hold on one second. This story is, actually we're going to be talking about Tariq Nasheed and his ability to turn everything into white supremacy, targeting black folks and trying to imprison or kill or oppress, right? Like, I mean, anything underneath the sun. I mean, if the sun don't come out today, it's white supremacy. Like, it's just that bad with Tariq Nasheed. Now, I have been on record in saying I'm not like he's not like a favorite of mine in terms of looking at for any like black leadership or thought, because it's pretty basic. It's pretty straightforward. Everything is white supremacy. Like, I mean, just like anything, like any fight that happens in the hood, any disagreement, anybody kill anybody, it is white supremacy for Mr. Tariq Nasheed. And I just don't dig that at all. I think it allows people to escape accountability, and I think it allows people not to live in reality. I think it allows people not to feel as if though they can't control themselves outside of feeling white supremacy has affected their way of thinking and behaving and all that other stuff. And I refuse to think just because of systemic racism and all those things that we have experienced as black people that we have no control over anything within our lives, right? And so you are going to run into some black people who do feel like that, like everything is out of our control and we have no control over anything, down to how you raise your kids, down to how you, and that's why we see the shit that we see in these schools, the whack ass parenting that we see, and if you try to hold them accountable, you see parents acting more like the children, on the side of the children, not working with the teachers, working against the school system. And even when you talk about the school system, it all gets chopped up to the indoctrination that is happening, and it's white supremacy, right? So it becomes this loop of just things that just don't make sense, and things that just people will find a way not to hold themselves or be responsible for anything, right? And it trickles down to relationships with people who think like this, right? Because you'll find that immediately, if trying to hold them accountable for something that they did to you, let's say me personally, and I've had this experience, right? I mean, this is the way I'm going to live in my truth, by talking about my truth, right? My experience is with people who think like this, they do something really disgusting to you, harmful to you, and the minute that you hold them accountable, it's, oh, you don't know what I've been through in life, right? And per se, meaning that because of our conditioning as, you know, what we've been conditioned to as black people, I may have not known better, or I may have been doing what I had to do to survive. All this like Survivor Island shit starts to manifest itself in terms of like why you should not be holding them accountable, as if though they have no control over anything that they've done. I mean, I'm talking about on black and black teachers, you know, having issues with each other. Oh, you're being too hard. You're behaving and acting like the white man. I promise y'all, it's infuriating. It makes you realize that, you know, you're being manipulated, right? I mean, because as a black person, you cannot just turn around and say white supremacy is the reason why you, a fellow black person, I am doing this bullshit too, right? And as much as I am quite aware of what we've been through as black people, I'm quite aware how, in terms of our mentalities and things that you may have to do to survive, it has produced a certain mindset within you. But at the same time, as another black person, I don't have to give you or let you have that excuse, right? There's so many times, like I was in a clubhouse room the other day, and they were talking about, oh, the problem is, black people got to do more business with black people, and we got to be like this, like weird, not weird, but, a community that looks out for one another. And repeatedly, we see that that's not the case, right? You go to YouTube, you see all these scammers on YouTube, you see them on TikTok, and the Jay Morrisons, the Boyce Watkins, all these people. Who else is out here scamming? The trucking guru lady is out here scamming allegedly. All this shit is allegedly. Y'all know how I do allegedly. Who else is out here scamming? Some of these pastors that are out here scamming and living the life of luxury and stuff like that. Who recently? So there was Jay Morrison, the Earn Your Leisure guys. My personal opinion, I feel like they're scammers, right? allegedly. And all of these people who take advantage of black people. And I think one of the biggest culprits, and I have been saying this since I was doing my podcast, and I remember doing my podcast, and I remember calling out and saying about people like Diddy. I remember saying I don't respect him, and I stand on that. And I stand on that to know that. Oh, I'm sorry, and don't forget all the Black Lives Matter, people, individuals who are out here collecting money, right? Those are scammers, right? And these are people who will try to feed you that community shit and come together. Let's do something for the community, but at the same time, we'll be taking advantage of the community, right? But let's back to P. Diddy and about 3 or 4 years ago. And I remember talking about on my podcast, Mace is going off online. I'm aware of the locks, back and forth with Diddy in terms of the contracts and stuff that he was doing. And I just remember thinking that he was a piece of shit then. And I remember saying, I don't respect him, right? Don't have us support you. And this verbatim of the words I was saying back then, right? So I didn't need a Cassie or anybody else to put me up on game on what I seen, right? And so when you have your artists, and you were talking about the women of Toto, Pam, I think it's Pam or Kima. One of them was allegedly working at Walmart, the other at White Castle, right? You have people like Craig Mack, who's died in destitute and poor. You have Black Rob, who died broke, and all this other stuff. So you have all these people who are associated with this black man, has done business, made him the billionaire that he became. And you've come to find out that they are not even making money off of their work. And he's the only one that's benefited from him. Now, if you know the history, the music history, and I've spent a lot of time, paying attention to how the music industry in early times played black people in terms of like jazz, in terms of like early musicians not being compensated for their work, right? You hear Little Richie, you hear him talk about how his contracts were fucked up, right? And I guess when I watched Ray Charles and see how he handled his business in terms of making sure that he got his masters from that original, if you remember, his masters in publishing from the group, the record company that he was signed to, you understood that he understood the business, but you also understood like him and Quincy Jones were an anomaly within the business. So you understood that majority of the people on those chitlin circuits and stuff were getting pennies on what they were worth, right? And so I say all of this to say that when you see Diddy in the 90s come along and he's the new Berry Gordy and stuff like that, and you then find out that he didn't set other black people up to be straight, then you feel as if though then there's no community. There's no community, right? There's no, we as black people are looking out for each other and doing right by each other. That's not happening, right? All right, so let's get into it. Here is the clip that Mr. Tariq Nasheed shared, and I really wanted to have this conversation. It's been a conversation I've been wanting to have. To be completely honest, the first part of this video I have recorded, like, essentially, as you see on your screen, December 1st. I think I recorded this first part of this on December 1st and never posted it. I got really busy, started a new job, and decided that I wanted to put out some like quick videos, right? And so this is what I wanted to get back to, and it was like there, and it was so weird. But I've been meaning to have and wanting to have this conversation because I think in society we are actually really struggling what to do with people with like special needs, right? And I'm going to say special needs, and that could be special needs, mental health, all of that could be encompassing to that. Only because I just feel like we're struggling. And I also feel at the same time, struggling with that, you do have individuals who are exploiting what that is in terms of society and how they can be held accountable for it. And I don't know. Like, I may be completely honest. I don't know where the line is drawn, or when you should or shouldn't hold someone responsible for their actions with having those special needs. And again, for me, special needs are people who have learning disabilities. It could also be people with like mental health issues, right? Like we can put that in there. And these are people who are dealing with like bipolar, depression. I'm not going to say depression because I don't. Depression is so different than like behavioral mental health issues, right? And that's borderline like those who are dealing with like schizophrenia, those who those who are dealing with schizophrenia, voices they're hearing and all that type of stuff, like, right? And then there's the disabilities in terms of like neurodivergent and spectrum, and being special needs. This is so much, I feel like sometimes. And so they may have like autism, things like that. They may be nonverbal, things like that, right? And so the video that I'm going to show you is most definitely of a child special needs person, and they have attacked somebody, right? And I thought this was really interesting because in the first part of the video, I talked about a lot about like everything being racialized with an individual like a Tariq Nasheed, right? Everything being white supremacy when it comes to Tariq Nasheed, to the point that there's like never a conversation to be had about like violence in the black community. And you see this even when you're talking about like gang violence and gang culture and all those things. It becomes then a conversation where you're talking about holding people accountable, becomes a conversation where you're then saying, oh, but that's what we gotta do to survive. They ain't letting us get ahead out here, right? It becomes a lot of that, right? So we never hold the shooters in our neighborhoods who are killing our babies. You know what I mean? Like we're never holding these people accountable. More or less, we see indicators in society that these people are somehow being celebrated, right? Like, because anytime you're celebrating anyone like a King Von in Chicago and having his face on a building, and other individuals like a Pop Smoke and having his face on the building, and known gang members, people who are promoting gang culture, and you can't have these conversations because it's all sort of like, oh, that was a black man that was living a life that he had to do what he had to do. Even though this black man may have killed 11 people in this supposedly doing what he has to do to survive. Because getting money, like if you get out the hood in terms of like rap or whatever, it's not enough nowadays, right? People aren't getting money and getting out the way and getting out the street. They're staying staying real active, right? And like, and we see that happening in like cities like Chicago. We see that happening in like a city like Memphis, and most of us see it happening in a city like Atlanta with YSL, right? Like if the goal was to get money, have kids, change your family's, trajectory, break generation curses, give your kids a life that you never had. We're not seeing that. We're seeing niggas like NBA young boys saying, I don't really fuck with these kids. All like that. All 11 of them that I got. Right? Like, we're seeing pure ignorance. Right? So let me get back on topic. So in this video, but I'm just saying like that we're seeing all of that, and we can't have these conversations because it's more or less, to have these conversations, you're trying to belittle, tear down the black man, all of this other like just pity me, I'm the victim ass shit all the time. So Tariq says, this is a horrible story. Putting special needs black youths in prison is a white supremacist ethnic cleansing tactic. Wow, that was a lot, y'all. Let me read that again. This is horrible. Putting special needs black youths in prison is a white supremacist ethnic cleansing tactic. And the white female teacher involved in this case has profited from the ordeal with a GoFundMe. And if you want to see this video, she deserves a GoFundMe. She deserves a check from the government. She deserves she deserves it.
For what my son.
She deserves it all, like for real. Um, and the white female teacher involved in this case has profited from the ordeal with the GoFund. This seems unethical because it could incentivize other white teachers to deliberately trigger black special needs kids to react violently so the teachers can get a bag. Wow. Wow. That is so trashy that like it's like it takes my breath away, right? Like it takes my breath away that you think there are people that are in the field of dealing with these children who would go out their way to trigger them for potentially getting a GoFundMe bag. And like I said, I recorded this the first half, December 1st. I recently was out and I met this woman. And it was just overhearing her talking to the person fixing her drink. And she said, I work with special needs children. And, you know, me, like, and I had to take the opportunity to talk to her. And I actually brought this case up to her in terms about, like, the teacher taking away this boy's stuff. And she was so pissed. Like, her reaction to it was like this. And it was a white woman. She was so pissed that the teacher did this, right? She talked about like how when you're trained and like that's not something you do, it most definitely can set them off and things like that. So when he does say that, that this boy was triggered, he most definitely was triggered. In the first reports that I seen in this video, it was most definitely known by the teacher and the staff that do not take his, I guess it was a game console or something like that. Don't take it from him because it will set him off. Right. So he is right in saying that, this young boy was triggered by what she did. Now, to say that she deliberately did it, to to the point where she was thinking ahead that I could get a GoFundMe bag, that's the disgustingness that is so disgusting. But back to the top where it says black youths in prison is a white supremacist ethnic cleansing tactic. That is a lot. Putting special needs black youth in a prison is a white supremacist ethnic cleansing tactic. I don't even know how he even applies that here. I will say there's a lot of conversation within the black community, and of course you hear Dr. Umar Johnson and all these other individuals who do who talk a lot about that school to prison pipeline, right? And that's a hard one for me to even wrap my brain around, not because I don't understand it, because I understand it, but I also, again, it's that bigger, question of, like, what do you do with people or children exhibiting certain behaviors and doing certain things, right? And if we're talking about, like, schools, what is it that you want schools to do with students who are potentially coming to school and getting into fights, violent, unruly, selling drugs? You have gangs in school. Like, you have all of this going on, right? And so when you think about, like, how do you avoid, like, things like that school to prison pipeline, then it becomes a pushback of saying, so do you not want the teachers and schools to hold students responsible for their behavior? And if they are deemed because they are black, and essentially sometimes I feel like we're saying because we're black that it should be assumed that there may be some underlying issues, or that because of our material condition in the United States that it's forcing us to behave this way. Like, that's all that potentially when you look at this video that I feel like you're saying. Like, there should be no accountability, right? We got the special needs thing going on. We have the black thing going on. We have the poor thing going on. We have the angry thing, the depressed thing. We have all of these things that are going on, right? So like I said, it's really, really hard. I don't know where he gets to that ethnic cleansing. But when you start talking about, like, that behavior existing in schools, I grew up in the suburbs, right? And granted, we don't have thinking about like that school to prison pipeline is not something that is exacerbated. Um, and yes and no in the suburbs, right? There are some that will probably have an argument that when a lot of times black people are living in communities where they are the minority, such as the suburbs, that you could see that the way they may interact with like black students, especially black boys, is very problematic in that Karen, oh, he's such a problem, oh, he needs to be on medication type of way. And I acknowledge all of these things as being something that is an issue, right? So of course in the suburbs you don't have a large percentage of I'm talking about my own personal experience. You don't have a large percentage of like having to deal with extreme violence, gangs, and all that other stuff, right? I don't know how to tell school systems or principals and things like that not to call the police for people who are in gangs in schools who are fighting, right? Like I don't know how to tell people that, because ultimately it's about protecting the students who are not participating in those things, right? And even protecting the students from themselves in a lot of ways in terms of like their behavior, right? And if you have if you have systems, home systems that aren't trying to correct these children, you want a teacher in the school system to be a magician and fix your child? They are not Yana. It's not fix your child. Can't nobody fix your child once they leave your house, right? So I don't know how to get around that school to prison pipeline for students who are showing up like that. I would love to see some statistical data that shows that that school to prison pipeline, and it affecting students that aren't participating in violence, drugs, gangs, and all that other stuff, right? Like I want to see the numbers that say that these non-violent students who are just having interactions with staff on a daily basis, or maybe even getting in trouble with other students, right? That is not non-violent, that is not violence and stuff like that, is resulting in school officials overreacting and getting police involved because of they can't control them. Like I want to see that. I want to see the breakdown of like what's being reported, who's being sent to juvenile detentions and all those other stuff. Because I just think to just say school to prison pipeline and that's the problem is not being realistic on like what the fuck we supposed to do. Like it all boils down to what the fuck is the teachers in the schools and them supposed to do. But again, I would love to see the breakdown. Like, and I would like to see if there's a large percentage of it being non-violent students who aren't a danger to the school, to the school system, to the school kids. And if it's just kids who pose a real threat, then I have a hard time with the school to prison pipeline being used as an excuse on why we think certain children should not be held accountable for their actions. And I don't think we have those numbers. I have not seen those numbers, right? I don't know if schools are even collecting information in that type of way so that we could have these conversations, right? All right, so let's get into this video.
Son did, and nobody should ever have to go through that. I am so sorry for what my son did, and nobody should ever have to go through that. But at the same time, please consider that my son has had a hard life, and he's gone through so much trauma in his life. He has autism. Please show mercy to him. It's devastating that my heart is breaking.
Y'all, the way that he whooped on that teacher, y'all, I would never return back to a motherfucking school again. Like, for real. Like, I said to the woman that I met, I said to her, you are an angel. And that's all I can say. Like, those who decide to be teachers in these situations and that could deal with this on a daily basis, they're angels, right? Like, that's literally how I feel about that. Because let me tell you something, your son would have bust my ass like that. I'm not an angel. So I know to stay away from situations and things and environments like this. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I can barely deal with adults that are on spectrums and have issues and stuff like that. I'm gonna be completely honest. Be completely upfront with me if you got a little something going on up there, because you gonna trigger, you do something crazy, she gonna trigger my little something going on up there. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest.
I'm terrified for my child. I I feel like if he gets sentenced to prison, it's a death sentence for him. He's scared. And to have your child call and cry and say, I don't want to die, it's awful. And I don't understand why. That in his IEP, it was stated that in the intensive behavior group home that he was living in, if they ever had to remove it as a consequence, they called in the crisis team. And the original IEP called for a token economy for so he could, to motivate him to do his work. He could earn tokens to then go to like a snack closet. This year, he had a new teacher who it's not Joan. Joan was not his teacher. She's the para. He had a new teacher who it was her first year teaching, and I don't know if she didn't understand the IEP, if she didn't read it, but she approached the group home and asked the group home to send it in.
Listen, for anybody who watches that video, it's hard for them to get past it, and I can understand they'd be devastated for Joan Nadich, the victim in this attack, and I can imagine you feel devastated for her as well. You wouldn't have wanted this to happen. You're obviously torn between the suffering that she's going through, and then of course the son that you love. It's just odd that he was in, this kind of public schooling to begin with. Do you know why this was the situation? Why he was actually even in a typical school like this? If he had this list of conditions he was coping with?
When he originally was in an autism behavioral hospital back before COVID hit, right before COVID hit. And we went through a process to where we were not able to reunify with him and bring him back home because of the limitations of seeing him in that year due to COVID. And so he was placed in an intensive behavioral group home, and I questioned it at the beginning. I had always homeschooled him because he didn't handle the school environment. I asked the group home, did he have to go to public school? Could he not do school online? And I was assured by them that all of their clients went to public school. So even though he was a level 6 and I never thought he belonged in public school, I didn't have a choice.
Wow. That's actually extremely heartbreaking. Like, she was forced to send him to school knowing that it was not a place for him to be at. And like I said, I most definitely, before I showed you guys the video, said, I don't know what the answer is, right? Like, I just don't know. Like, I don't know how to tell this teacher also at the same time that there's no accountability, and there's nothing to be done to this boy after she experienced what she experienced, right? And I think even like when I'm thinking about, I was recently on Clubhouse, and this girl, and this is where we're at. This girl, she has been like really aggressively trying to engage with me, right? I don't know this bitch, and I've never spoken to her a day in my life, but my first time speaking to her, it was very aggressive. It was a lot of slights, backhanded, like, comments being made, right? And so for me, I don't know you, and you're acting in a way when it comes to females with me that I'm never going to engage with you again. Like, we're not going to have a conversation. I feel no need to entertain you in any type of real type of way, because you carry yourself in a way that in like real fucking life, I'd fuck you up. Like, in real fucking life, you would never talk to me. I've never been spoken to like that before in real fucking life, right? So I'm not hopping on a chat and getting that from anybody when all I can do, when I can just never speak to you again. Never speak to you again. All right. So she spoke to me in a way that I did not like. And I remember, and you may not know or can't, if you've ever been on Clubhouse, you have, when you're talking, when other people are talking and you're on stage, right? Now there's the audience that sits below and there's a stage up top. So when you're talking, you can you can use the emojis as to express yourself. Like, so laughing emoji, like what emojis are used for. And so one of the emojis are the rolling eye emojis, right? And so, I hit the rolling eye emoji, right? And so she says, she comes off her mic. Now, I know the bitch is sneaky because I already been put up on game on a couple things. But I had noticed that she has a tendency to do like Karen behavior. And this is a black woman, right? She has tendency to do Karen behavior. And I think she's a social worker. And so she knows a lot of like what she's doing in terms of like, she knows a lot about mental health. And with that being said, she also knows how to be twisted with it, right? That's the best way I can describe it. And it just is what it is. So, right. So she said something I don't agree with, and I rolled my eyes, and she comes off her mic. She was like, why are you rolling your eyes? Now, just to remind you, I have sat in the audience for a couple years and never talked to this girl because for me, like corny, you can see corny, you can hear corny. So for me, I know, like, I think you're corny. But this was the first time after a couple years, right? So, but every time that I'm in the audience, I see her using the emojis when she's on stage. So... oh, it's snowing. So I used the rolling eye emoji. And she comes off her mic and she was like, why are you rolling your eyes? I said, because I can. Like what? Because I can. Like, whatever. She goes, well, it's bothering me and I have sensory issues. I said, wah, like crybaby, like, right? Because I had been in the audience and seen her using the emojis, right? So I know she's actually full of fucking shit. But at the same time, you have been disrespectful and treated me in a way that I don't have to respect you. I don't have to engage with you in a friendly manner. And if rolling my eyes emoji is setting off your sensory whatever that you got going on, I'm gonna tell you just to log the fuck off. I don't really give a fuck, like, to be completely honest. And that's why I said to you guys, there are some people out here weaponizing things, and I'm just like, I'm not here for it, right? Like, we also got into, like, there was a conversation to be had, and I used the word structure, and I said how, you know, a lot of kids don't have a lot of structure at home, so it shows up in schools. Y'all know this dumb bitch said to me, oh, that word is really triggering for me because, you know, in my everyday profession, when white people say it, it just means so such and such and such. Well, I'm not fucking white, right? And if a conversation that is, you know, a word called structure will cause you to be triggered, log the fuck off. Right? But this is, she didn't know that I knew she was in the mental health field. So I know she's doing these little things to, try to be like this like professional victim, and this is what I'm trying to tell you guys. Like I have no tolerance for that fucking behavior. One, log the fuck off. Two, if you have sensory issues, I'm just confused. Is it come and go in terms of like when the sensory shit bothers you and stuff like that? And I'm just not the person that you're gonna be able to play with like that, right? Log off. I can't talk to you no more. I'm not trying to be the person that triggers you into like suicide or something. Like, I'm not trying to be that person for you. So for me and you, we cannot speak. We cannot have any type of communication because you can't handle it. And I'm going to make the executive decision for your motherfucking life that you can't handle it. And that's real fucking tough. Like, sensory issue and you triggered by structured, and I'm not even a white person that should be setting off your triggers because I most definitely don't mean it how they mean it, right? Like, so you way too sensitive if you that triggered, right? I say all that to say there are those out there who do that, right? Who use it in that type of way. But at the same time, there are those who try to make other people responsible for all of that they may have going on. And I have things that trigger me. I think everyone does. Like, I think everyone has things that, and I won't say that. I have things that, well, I do think everyone has things that triggers them. I do. I think I was very keen about for like on my podcast of saying I never tell people what my triggers are. I never tell people. I think people are extremely evil. I think people do go out their way to trigger people. I most definitely do believe that. So I'm not a proponent of like expressing what that is. I just think in terms of like it being a part of your mental health, know what the fuck that is. Don't put yourself in environments that you could be triggered, and ultimately know that if someone is triggering you, a pure stranger is triggering you, that it's not personal, they don't know you, right? And then that too, you have to leave the room. Like, people do not have to change an environment to suit, because we would be changing every environment, everything about society to suit everyone. Your mental health is your mental health. Protect it, right? If it does disturb your peace, right, get away from it. Like, those are things that help you, just be better in life, right? But I don't think you get to do what I just described in terms of what that bitch was doing and trying to fuck with me and trying to make me appear or seem as if though I'm a mean person and not being polite and nice, right? Because essentially I would notice that she would say little, snippet comments and make little snarky remarks to tons of people on stages, right? And then at times she would be like, oh, that's not nice. And it's sort of been like, well, bitch, you're not nice, right? Like, I'm not quite sure, like, why do you think you are the grand master of, like, what's nice? And why is it that your behavior does not align with that? And because you think that you're black and you speak in a certain way, and she's not, like, black American, she's, like, black, I think Ethiopian. I don't really know. I really don't care. Like, you're not even in this culture. So you're like black and you talk, y'all know what I'm talking about in terms of like a social worker. But you talk in a certain type of way that is very like kindergarten teacher-ish. It's very like, school officials who do try to set up students, who do try to label students by saying things of like, someone not having structure, behavior issues. Y'all know how they talk, right? So she can talk in that type of way. And I thought she was, no, I'm not going to say it. I believe the bitch thought she was trying to make me look bad, and that I was picking on her. You're a grown ass woman. Log the fuck off. Point, period, blank. Oh, and how about I fix it for us? We never have to speak. How much is that? Like, can I be your bully if I just say we never speaking? Can I be that person that you have, these deep feelings of discomfort around if I say I'm not interacting with you? I don't know. It's bullshit. But yeah, I hope that was, I hope you got something from that. I do think we have a lot to talk about and deal with in society. Like I said, I don't have an answer with like, how do we deal with this? I really don't. Like, to be completely honest, I just really don't. I really don't. I just know if I was this teacher and your son whooped on me like that, I don't know. I'm glad that she's alive though. And prison wise, I don't think they're gonna kill him in prison. I think everyone, when it comes to, I'm just crossing my fingers, right? Like, it's just, I'm really hoping that people will take pity on him because he is a special needs person, right? And most people don't have the heart to do anything to special needs people because they understand that. Yeah, but I'm scared for him too. You know what I mean? Because there's gonna be times he may react to something, and there may be another, may not be special needs, but maybe another nigga who's just cooked the fuck up in a whole nother different way, who don't know how to interact with someone like that. Like, that's a thing, right? All right, y'all. So, is there anything else I wanted to talk about? All right, so that's special needs, but I do think there are behavioral issues, and there's another video out there.
I am so sorry for what my son did.
And so the video I'm looking for now is the man that jumps on Judge. Okay, so there's this video I'm about to show you. And this man has been, and this is where I talk about holding people responsible. And when do you hold people responsible who are saying that they are suffering from mental health and all these other things, right? Like, when's enough enough? So there's this situation that y'all about to see. I don't want to show it yet. What y'all about to see is that this man is in front of a judge that he had been in front of 4 times. The last 11 years, he has been in court in front of judges 10 times, right? On several occasions, he has been put on probation. He has most definitely spent a little bit of time in jail, nothing extensive and stuff like that, right? So people most definitely have been trying to work with this man. Again, 10 times in 11 years, this man has been in the courts for getting in trouble. He had one situation where he jumped on a family member, and what you've seen in that last video, he kind of, did the same thing. But what you're going to see in this video that he did to this judge, essentially is what is described that he potentially did to a family member. So we're going to see all of his behavior act out. Now, I don't know if this video has the beginning, because there's a beginning of the video where he's talking to the judge and telling the judge that previously in life, I was dealing with a lot going on. I didn't understand my mental health. I'm much better now. I'm on medication. I'm going to therapy. I understand but like, he's like, really talking about like he's like in touch with himself. Like he's, but at this point the judge is like, I done heard it all before. Like the judge is like, I'm done, right? And that triggered that was it for him. That was it for him. It was like really, really bad. But I'm gonna show y'all the video. But 11 times they have been trying to work with this man. I'm talking like 10 times they have been working with this man. So when's enough? When is it time for you to go to the jail? You and the meds go to the jail.
In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court.
Hey! Whoa! Hey! Whoa! Hey!
Wow. He's telling her, what's wrong with you, bitch? Look how he's stomping her out. Look how he's stomping her out. Look at them little baby punches in the back, buddy. Wow. You hear her say that I just can't with that history. Now there's a longer video that shows them talking, and he's trying to, look, and then he ended up having to come back to court, and he had a nerve to not want to come back to court. And she said, "You better bring your ass back here." And so you'll see, they had him in the Signs of the Lamb whole get up of, whoa. All right, so I want to show y'all the longer video, but there's a longer video of him, and this was in Nevada. There's a longer video of him, like kind of, explaining, and he got mad because she cut him off. Like literally, he got mad because she cut him off and didn't want to hear what he was talking about. But like I said, I wanted to show y'all that in tandem with that other video to say like when's enough, right? Like I gave you the backstory of like his situation and him dealing with mental health. And does he not deserve to go to jail because of this? Because he's dealing with mental health, right? Like, I don't understand, because if I'm that judge, you going to jail. And she did end up sentencing him. It wasn't for, like, she now has a case on him because of what he did. But she sentenced him for the case for what he was in front of her about. And he probably will have to go back to court again for attacking her. But, man, I'm trying to find the longer portion of the video so that you guys can see, like, and listen, when you hear him speak, you're like, ooh, something's not right. Like, you automatically know something's not right. But I think y'all get the gist of what I'm saying. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Y'all know how we do it here. We keep it bougie SF. We keep it posh SF. We keep it black SF. And y'all keep being blessed SF. I am out, y'all. Bye.